All right, what's up, guys? We are back with the 101st podcast episode. Thanks for celebrating 100 with us last week. That was an absolute ton of fun. Just so you know, all the giveaway winners have been emailed, and most, or about a third of them, have been claimed now. The rest get 48 hours until they have to respond. So make sure you check your spam in your email to see if you won or not, because if you don't respond, I will be picking a new winner. But they've all been notified. So, yeah. Thanks for participating in the giveaway. And then for those of you who did not win, like we said last week, there is a flash sale going on right now until the end of the day, midnight tonight. And I will just read really quickly through the brands that are involved. So, Melon, our favorite,
baby, let's go,
is doing 30% off. You have some really old Melon hat that I've never even seen before.
Nice, rare, very rare vintage Melon. That's how addicted I am. I'm seeking these out.
We have such a problem. But yes, we love these hats. They're 30% off. Also, all the codes for these are going to be PB100 instead of PB Studio, just for this flash sale. So just keep that in mind.
Yep.
Also, I'll have a link in the description that will take you to the website that has a landing page with all the brands involved, what their discount code is, everything. So if you're missing any information, just go check the description. But after that, we have 11624 is doing 20% off all their paddles. Reload is doing, you get 6 free replacement sheets with a purchase of a paddle. All you have to do is add the sheets and paddle to your cart, and then code PB100 will make the sheets free. Vatic Pro is doing 15% off all their paddles. Bread and Butter is 20% off. Spartus is 20% off. Volaire is 20% off. Carbon is 30% off all their bags and protective eyewear, not their paddles. Thrive is 20% off. Gamma is 25% off. Just Paddles is doing 10% off select brands and a free laser engraving on your paddle with purchase. Franklin is doing 20% off all of their pickleball items, which includes the balls. So if you needed to pick up 100 pack of balls, now's a good time to do it. Maybe even split it with a friend.
Yeah, I'd do that.
I mean, we used to do that way back in the day, like split. Patrick would buy like 100, and then some of us would take 50, the other would take 50. So good time to do that. Pickle, P-I-K-K-L, is offering 20% off all their paddles. They actually also did this custom paddle on the table with the podcast graphic. So huge thanks to them. That thing is sweet. That'll definitely go on the wall.
Yeah, it looks awesome.
Selkirk is offering a free 12-pack of Pro S1 balls with purchase of a SLK or Selkirk paddle. Ronbus is 20% off all their paddles. Kitchen, K-T-C-H-N, jeez Louise, is offering 10% off all their bags. Groovin is offering 20% off their entire website. 60 is offering 20% off their limited edition Hawaii Double Black Diamond. Neonic is 20% off all their paddles. I think it's their entire website as well. Chorus is offering 20... Jeez, this is so much text to read. Chorus Pickleball is offering 25% off all their paddles, which includes the Shapeshifter, which is a great paddle. Honolulu Pickleball is doing 20% off. Mark Pickleball is 20%. Engage is doing 20% off their Extreme V2 and Max models. And then if you do purchase a Pro Line paddle, you can use code PBGWP100, and then you'll get a 3-pack of Engage balls with that purchase. Paddle Tech is offering 10% off their paddles and a paddle cover plus hat included with purchase. Story Eye Sun Sleeves is 20% off, and then Versix is 20% off the Vector XL, which that brings that paddle down to like $104, I think.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's really cheap.
Like right at $100 for that paddle is kind of nuts.
It was already a good deal, so at 100 it's insane.
Yeah.
But anyways, guys, those are all the brands. I really hope I didn't forget one. I actually forgot Vatic last week. I am so sorry for that.
Oops.
I don't know how I managed to do that. But yeah, check the description if you want more information. That will run until midnight tonight, so make sure you pick something up quick. Nice. And huge thank you again. Everyone in the comments, say thank you to the brands. This was extremely, extremely generous for all these brands to do 20% off for that time.
Thank you all for celebrating with us. That was very cool. It's awesome. It's a lot of fun.
A lot of fun. So, all right, let's get into it. And this is going to be a short pod this week, guys. I know I've said that many times. It always ends up being a long pod. I'm almost 100% positive today it'll be a short
This
pod.
one will be a bit shorter. After, the 2.5 hour pod,
Yeah.
it's okay to have one a little bit shorter.
A little bit shorter,
A little
yeah.
bit cool down period.
I'm guessing 40 minutes for this. We'll see how far off I am.
Okay, we'll see.
All right, first thing I want to talk about is the 6-0 Double Black Diamond Elongated did just come out. So I hadn't hit that until last night, but I did get to play with it, and I actually liked that more than I was anticipating. I don't really know what I was expecting. I guess at this point, it just kind of felt like the Double Black Diamond's been out for so long, and people have been asking for an elongated for so long that it was like, why didn't this just come out sooner?
Yeah.
So I think my expectation going in was a little low, but I don't know if it's just because of the elongated or the 15 millimeter core, but I actually liked playing with that quite a bit. And the handle is kind of like the Willinator, where it's really large.
Super long.
It's 6 inches, so if you're putting two hands on it, it's very easy. So no problems there. But yeah, it's a really fun paddle. Basically, if you were looking for a Double Black Diamond and you just wanted it to be elongated with maybe an absolute smidge more pop, and obviously power because it's got more plow through,
Yep.
this would be good. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, I've hit it a bit. I've hit it a few times, and then I hit it a little bit last night, and I like it. I think it's great. Long handle. My thing now is it maybe back when the Double Black Diamond was released, it would have been all court leaning maybe towards power, but now it's like all court leaning control.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where like the Double Black Diamond sits.
It's shifted a lot, and personally for me, and this is an issue I've had with pretty much any extremely elongated paddle, when you increase the handle length a ton and shrink the face, you lose, I feel like, a little bit plow through and a little bit of power. Like if you've hit the Oya, the really long Oya, that thing it is a pillow. It just has no power to it at all. You just can't generate power because there's no weight in the head.
Yeah.
There's so much handle.
Yeah.
So what I would do if I was using Double Black Diamond Elongated, I would just have to put a bunch of lead at the head. Otherwise, I thought it played nice. I liked having the long handle flicks at the kitchen. Those felt really nice. So easy. Yeah. So yeah, it was fun to play with. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. So if you guys were thinking about picking one up and you just really wanted an elongated one, I mean, this is pretty much it. I would need to, I know a few people were asking me, how would I compare it to the Hiracha X Control Plus? I would need to hit them side by side. My initial guess is that the Hiracha X probably has a smidge more pop, and then power levels are probably pretty comparable. So I don't know for sure. I didn't get to hit that side by side last night because we were also hitting the Joola 3S models. But yeah, I mean, so far the elongated DBD seems pretty good and about what you'd expect. I just kind of wish it had come out sooner.
Yeah. I feel the same. We also got to hit the Vanguard Pro a little.
Well, I hit like a couple shots with it.
Oh, okay. So you didn't hit it much. I hit it a little bit, not enough yet, but
yeah. I mean, the thing I haven't. Let me see. It's not officially out yet. So
is it not?
Yeah, I don't know the pricing on it yet. And actually, now that I think about it, since this paddle's not out, usually Selkirk is kind of like, let's not talk about anything. So I mean, we don't actually even have the paddle yet. We got it from someone else.
Really, I saw it posted somewhere.
Well, I think it is like being teased and stuff, but I don't know. Usually they'll like Selkirk kind of will tease stuff, but then it's like, okay, don't talk about anything until it launches. But we don't have one ourselves yet. Actually, it was a friend that had one.
Yeah,
and so that's how we were hitting it. But yeah, we'll save some thoughts for when it's out. But yeah, we'll probably have some thoughts.
Well, a little update on our friend the Ripple.
Yes,
this thing. So it's getting looser. It's getting more powerful.
Yeah,
and we won't go too much outside of that. But really liked how it was. And now it's beginning to become a little bit too much.
It's too much for sure.
It's getting tough to play with.
The one thing we do need to do is at some point, take the weight off that you put on and see how it plays without that. Because obviously once we started putting the weight on, so there's been like phases. It was stock, a little bit of weight, and then like one more set of weight. And then once that set of weight on, I was like, okay, this is pretty poppy. But even since then, I feel like it's gone up another level.
Oh, man. It's gone up so much more even after all that weight.
We went from thinking, at least for me, I don't know how you feel right now, but it was like, okay, this is very powerful, but I can still control this. I felt very well for a power paddle, and now to me, it's like Gearbox level, if not Gearbox Plus. Maybe not Gearbox Plus, but like it's right on that cusp of gearbox.
It's like right under gearbox or right at gearbox, and it's crazy. So last night I played with you guys, our group, and I tried to use it, and it was just I couldn't quite control it. Every once in a while I'd hit a really good shot, but the day before I used it and hit every shot unbelievably perfect, and could not lose a game. So it's like, if you're not absolutely dialed at the moment with that paddle, your wins are going to be extremely high and your losses are going to be extremely low.
I mean, that to me, the few shots I hit last night with it after you had hit a couple, and I was like, what the heck is wrong with that thing? You hit one drive, and I was like, that thing has not hit that hard yet. I was like that.
There was a drive, I saw it in your eyes where you were like, what on earth?
I've known what the speed is, and then all of a sudden when it was way more, I was like, whoa, what the heck just happened?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. Obviously, the paddle's still, they're doing like more beta testing while they build up stock and whatnot, but I am concerned if they heat up like this, that's going to be problematic. If it stayed exactly how it was,
be amazing.
That was great.
Yeah.
But now it's too much.
It definitely is becoming too much. So yeah, we'll have to take the lead off and try it, and then also compare it to a new one. I also want to cut this thing open.
Yeah, I will.
We'll
definitely eventually
see what's going on with it. But yeah, it's great paddle, but man, it's getting tough to use right now, and I'm curious if it'll just keep loosening up.
Yeah, is it gonna taper off? Is it gonna?
Has it hit its peak? Like, I feel like that's what happened with the gearbox. Is like
eventually it hits a peak.
It hits a peak, and it's just not getting. It's just maxed out.
Yeah.
But this, man, every session I use it, I swear. Like, one of the sessions I was using it a week ago, I swear I could feel it getting hotter per game.
Yeah.
Like, game by game, returns were getting harder, drives were getting harder. It's just everything was getting harder to use. So
yeah,
it's interesting.
So we'll keep you guys updated on that. That would be really unfortunate because I feel like today, like, we just don't want paddles to do that anymore. It's just not great. So hopefully that stops being a thing. But that's our update on the Ripple right now. Yeah. We have no idea when it's actually officially launching, guys. But when we do know that, we will keep you updated.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Last thing in our news and updates is I just wanted to go over some stuff from the PPA. So yesterday I got to catch some of the finals. And, well, first of all, I can't remember if it was a quarters or a semis match against the Johns brothers against Alshon and Riley Newman. But did you see that Instagram clip?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I did.
That was... So if you guys didn't see it, there was a couple weeks ago, I think it was at the Vegas tournament, Alshon had some very choice words to the Johns after he beat them and walked up to the net. I'm not going to repeat them on this podcast. But he had some words for them.
Yep.
And then after the Johns won this one, after they like tapped hands or whatever and were starting to walk away, Colin Johns starts doing the little chirping thing with his hand.
And he just started walking at him. Like, he wouldn't let it go.
Yeah, and then I don't know what they said.
Yeah, you can't hear it.
You can't hear it in the clip, but I was like, oh my gosh.
Dude, it was crazy. Ben just walked away immediately, and Colin just kept like following Alshon to his bench and was just like walking at him. It was crazy.
I have like two opinions on seeing this in pickleball. One, generally speaking, I don't like it. I feel like it's not very classy. I feel like it doesn't reflect very well. But then another part of me is like, it's kind of like that train wreck that you're like, I gotta keep looking over, like what's going on over there, because you're just like, what are they about to do? Are they about to like throw hands?
Yep.
Like,
oh, that would have been nuts, man.
That
would not have ended great for Colin.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Could you imagine?
But I just like, man, I don't know.
Well, someone out there is gonna figure out what was said. It'll get said somewhere.
Somehow, somewhere, it'll make it.
But yeah, that was insane. But yeah, Ben and Colin are finally back on top.
Yeah,
it's been how many tournaments since they've won a PPA?
Yeah, I don't know how many tournaments exactly, but we're going to talk about this a little bit more in a second. But one of the things that I'm loving about the current state of pro pickleball is that the gap is so close that you really don't know exactly who's going to win a tournament or who's going to be in a final anymore.
Yeah.
And what I think is even better, with the Johns bros having lost so much recently, I feel like they're almost back at a point now where when they win, you're not mad. You're almost like, oh, you guys like figured it out. Mm-hmm. Like you got it back. So it's not like before where it's like, oh yeah, they're just gonna win. This is lame.
They're
is
in the
boring.
finals every single tournament.
They're gonna win 3. Now it's like, oh, hey, they made it. Like they might win this. So I think that's really cool about the state of pro pickleball. Like we were even talking about this. The quarters, you like listed all the matchups to me, and I was like, I don't know who's gonna win most of those.
Yeah, I feel like 6 or 8 months ago, maybe a little further back, I would look at the quarters and just be like, yep, I know exactly which teams are moving forward in these.
Yeah.
And then same thing with the semis.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's cool now that you just have really no clue.
Yeah.
It's anyone's game. I mean, I never would have expected Tyson and Xiaomei to be in the finals.
I mean, I don't know if I would say I would never have expected. They did it once this year already.
Yeah, just with some of those teams, man.
Some of the teams are pretty stacked. But since
have
they've done
seen
it
that
once,
coming.
I was like, oh, okay.
Like, I would have expected J-Dub and Dylan
for sure.
win that matchup most times.
Yeah.
But, yeah, no, it's pretty cool. I like seeing that.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. Let's see. What do we got here?
Oh, man. So, this was nuts. I unfortunately didn't get to watch the whole match, but I saw some highlights. Dude, Annalie and Catherine have finally been taken down, which is insane. What was their winning streak? Something absolutely astronomical.
Well over 100. It was like 112-1 or something. It was over 100 and then 1.
Yeah, that's just absolutely insane. I can't even imagine.
Yeah,
having that
actually,
kind of a winning
I can't
streak.
remember exactly if that was just Annalie's winning streak or if that was Catherine and Annalie's
her
winning
together.
Because I can't remember when Catherine. No, I think that was theirs because I think they lost women's to Anna and Rachel at another tournament this year. I think. I'm trying to remember which one that was.
Yeah, same.
But anyways, doesn't really matter. The fact that they won in 4 games, so it didn't end up going to 5.
And it was all the games were. Well, they won the first one handily, 11-3. Then the rest were fairly close. They won the second one 11-9, then lost 11-9, and then won the fourth 11-5.
Yeah,
which
that's
is
crazy.
Nuts.
For playing against Annalie and Catherine, that feels like a
considering Annalie has been on a pickling streak.
Yeah,
that is crazy.
Yeah,
it's
who knows? Maybe we're finally
win.
about to see on the women's side the like parity of skill like catch up. That would be great.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I think it's still gonna be a while, but just seeing someone break through a little bit is like, okay, good.
It'd be nice.
Yeah,
it'd be nice. But I don't see it coming quite yet. Yeah. But yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, I'm not praying on the downfall of Annalie, but man, she has just won everything.
I mean,
it's had so many triple crowns. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's the same thing as like when Ben was like in his absolute dominance era. It's like, okay, yeah, this is amazing, like great for you, but like, yeah, we'd want to see someone else win something.
And it literally the women's state of women's pickleball right now is exactly what we were just talking about with men's like a year ago, where it's like the exact same teams are going to be in the semis, and then exactly who's going to make it to the finals, and then exactly who's going to win the championship.
Yep.
So maybe in a year or two we start to see the shift just like men's, but who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Also, the last thing, so I did get to watch this final. This one was crazy. So the men's singles final, Hunter Johnson made a run all the way. I'm pretty sure it was Hunter. Let me just absolutely double check that quick and make sure it's not Yates. That would be really embarrassing if I screwed that up.
That would be hilarious.
It was indeed Hunter. All right. So Hunter Johnson makes it all the way to the singles final. He had a big run, and then he played Connor Garnett. So he wins the first game 11-2. Then he loses the next game 11-8. And I want to say he was up decently in the second one because it really wasn't looking good for Connor. And then he just strung together a bunch of points in a row, ended up winning that game. Game 3, Connor is up 7-0. And Hunter just looks like he's falling apart. You're like, okay, yeah, Connor wins this thing.
Yeah.
Somehow makes a huge run back and wins 11-9.
In singles, that's just insane. I've been in those positions in singles, and man, my physical motivation is toast. My mental motivation is gone. Like that's so impressive.
It was extremely impressive, and like his reaction when he won, like he just immediately like dropped to the floor because it was his first.
As you say,
PPA
it's his first
title.
Yeah, first title, right?
So that was again, that makes it exciting to watch when you see these things because you're like, man, this means a lot to this guy. Or you're just like, and honestly, I would have been fine with either of them winning because Connor Garnett just seems like a very chill, very nice guy. And then Hunter being his first one, it's like, okay, you want to see him win it. So I would have been fine either way.
Yeah.
But I'm just glad we got a great game. I was like, man, that's like a pickle in the third game. I was like, how anticlimactic. And then he just says, nope, not today.
Dude, I can't even imagine coming back in that moment, like, I can't even imagine what he's thinking, being down 0-7 and then all of a sudden, 5-7, 6-7, 7-7.
Yeah.
Like, that's just insane.
I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but I almost want to say when he got a side out, he got like 6 straight points to get to 6-7.
Yeah.
Something like that. He had a pretty big string in a row, I thought. But yeah, it was a very impressive match. It was exciting to watch. Yeah, so it's pretty crazy. It's nice to see the skill level closing,
especially in singles.
I mean,
has been nuts.
Almost always feels like a guaranteed in the final this year for the most part, but still don't really know who's going to win. Otherwise,
there's been a ton more singles players now that like weren't. I don't want to say not relevant, but just not winning as much as last year. It's cool to see a bigger pool of people. Yeah. I mean, just in general in pickleball. So.
I think the biggest thing or best thing that came out of the whole tour wars and like all this money being spent was the amount of people that can go full time now and take it super serious. Like I feel like that is why we have what we have right now. It's because you have people who can just train all the time.
It has to be a big part of it. I mean, being able to solely focus on pickleball and not have to focus at a job too.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there's still a few people doing it. Yeah. Matt Wright is,
I don't think
number
he's giving
one
up
at
his
it.
job.
I don't think he's getting rid of that lawyer job.
Not at his career in pickleball right now.
Yeah, definitely not. But man, it's cool to see more people. Like they're getting so much better so fast.
Yeah. So. Okay. So the main topic we want to talk about this week, we want to talk about the Joola 3Ss. So a lot of people have been asking, what's different? Again. Do they hit harder or do they not hit hard? What's the deal? What is going on with these paddles? So we played with them last week, got them out, and we filmed a video, actually, that we were going to post last week. And then when I cut the paddles open, I couldn't figure out what was different. Like, it pretty much looked like the same paddle, maybe a smidge less foam. Then I was like, okay, I should just hit up Joola and just ask them, like, what did you guys change? Because I can't really tell.
Yeah.
This is going to be very interesting because I have a lot of thoughts about this whole thing. So basically, here's the deal, and this explains so much of the Gen 3s and I guess the mod, but the mod hasn't been around as long. So they obviously seem to core crush a lot, at least in our area. With big hitters, they crush all the time. I mean, this weekend, the mod, the guy at League, I literally heard his paddle from one court over. He must have hit a forehand drive, and I immediately went, well, whatever. I was like, that's either a gearbox or a Joola, and it is completely destroyed. Like it was like a loud gunshot.
Oh, trust me,
ear.
I had the same thought. I walked in and I heard it and immediately went, huh, where's that? Yeah. And I knew the second I heard it, I knew exactly what it was. And then when I looked at who it was, I went, I'm not surprised.
Oh, dude, when I heard the ball, I was like, I hope that didn't hit someone because they're dead if it hit them. I was so loud. So, okay. This is just so crazy to me. Okay. So basically, the 3S, here's what changed. It is the exact same paddle as the Gen 3 and the mod. Nothing changed except the core is not crushed. So basically, what Joola was doing and how they explained it to me is with the Gen 3 and the mod, they were taking a thicker core and putting it, so with thermoforming, a paddle goes into a mold, and this is why paddles get core crushed.
Yep.
If the mold is like pushed in wrong and the pressure's off, or the core is too thick inside the mold, there's a lot of pressure inside this mold.
Let's just say the mold is exactly 16 millimeters, and then if they put a core sheet inside that is 16.5 millimeters or 17
or
millimeters
some number,
or just some number above 16. When that press goes down and molds it, it is actually going to break and core crush the paddle from the factory as it's being made. And that's why when you get it, it won't make a crunching noise right away, but it is broken the second you get it.
And this is how basically thermoform paddles have worked. So like, I feel like from when we like all the way back in the Carbon 1X days, people didn't really know what was going on.
Yep.
People thought it was like not enough glue. People thought it was real delamination. There was a little bit of that, but there was a lot of theories of like, what is going on? The common working knowledge right now is that when a paddle is core crushed or when they core crush a lot, they're already broken from the factory. I've cut open so many paddles now, and I have seen so many paddles where the core is broken and the paddle's only been hit a couple times.
Yep.
And I know it wasn't from the few dinks that were hit on the paddle.
Yeah.
So if it's going to core crush, it was broken from the factory. So anyways, Joola would take a thicker core, put it into the mold, and compress it.
And do that on purpose.
Yeah, that was on purpose.
That was intentional.
Yeah, that one wasn't an accident. I think there's still going to be some variance. Like sometimes there's just variance, for my understanding, with the polymer sheets, and they can crush a little bit. But this one was intentional.
Yeah.
So now an interesting question that I asked, because I just don't think anyone's really thought to ask this because we're so far past this situation. But I asked them, I was like, okay, clearly you've thought about this. And they explained to me, like, you know, basically the thought process behind when they went and did this. And I was like, okay, well, my question is, does the paddle, when you do that, still pass the deflection test? Not the PPL one. I'm just talking about USAP here because that was the standard these things were all built for.
Yep.
Because when all of the stuff happened back in the day, we'll start with the PPA. So they just banned the 1X when it was hitting super hard. Thomas Wilson was hitting absolute bombs. Everyone was like, what is going on?
Yep.
People were catching on to the whole lacrosse ball thing. They just banned the paddle and said, basically, if you use this and this thing fails, you know, we'll strip your winnings or whatever. And then eventually it just came back and people seemed to stop caring about it. And then this is kind of how like the whole PPL deflection test stuff started to happen, was because of these paddles. And then USAP never came out and said, hey, this fails the deflection test, to my knowledge. I can't remember that happening. And then they made a new test at the APP, which is like this ultrasonic bond test. Basically, it's a little scanner that goes over the face. And what's interesting is, to my knowledge of like how that works, is it's more looking for like DLAM, I feel like, than it is core crushing. But regardless, they do this little scan on the paddle. It's not a deflection test.
Right.
And so my question to them was, no one ever actually came out and said these failed deflection tests. So is it possible that this whole time core crushed paddles have been legal? They just hit harder than what people wanted. And when I asked them that, they said they have all the testing equipment. They run the tests themselves. And they said, it does pass. So out of the box, when it is crushed like that, it will pass. Obviously, it's not making the noise with your hand yet. So that makes sense as it pass. So then my next question was, does it pass when you can start hearing it crunch? And they said, yes.
See, that doesn't make sense to me.
Well, here's the thing. They said it often does pass when you start hearing that crunch, but there does become a point where it's crunching too much and it will not pass anymore.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
at league, that guy's paddle wasn't passing.
100%.
That one was, I'd pretty much bet money that one wasn't passing because that thing was destroyed.
I feel like most don't, because at least once you start to really hear it crunch,
Yes,
like when you
agree.
hear one crunch and someone else across like the group or somewhere over can go, oh wow, I heard that.
Yep.
Like not only can you just feel your thumb sink in, you
Yep.
can just see the entire face move. And at that point, you know that, I mean, once you hear it crunch once, you know it's done. Like I've had paddles where I'll push on it and it doesn't really necessarily move, but I hear a tiny little crack and I go, okay, I'm done using this. Because what's the point of trying to get used to a core crush paddle?
Yeah, 100%.
Like even though it might still be legal, it's
well,
not
I think
worth
it's,
it to me.
it becomes unpredictable. You know it's going to break, so what's the point?
Mid-game, it's going to get worse.
But I did think that was interesting. And what I'd like to know, I wish I could see the paddles be tested with my own eyes. I'd like to know what level of crunch still passes. Like, are we talking only the tiniest little bit of crunch that you can kind of hear? That passes, but as soon as you hear a full crunch, it doesn't. Mm-hmm. I mean, clearly that line is very blurred, and amateurs are never going to know when their paddle is too core crush. So like I still think the general rule of thumb is if it makes that noise, you should probably just retire the paddle.
I agree.
But I just thought that was interesting because it's a question no one really asked. And so when I got that answer, I was like, okay, that feels like it checks out a bit.
Interesting.
But and then like I said, we're not even going to talk about the whole PPL testing. Test is completely different. So I just feel like it doesn't really apply. But yeah, I thought that was fascinating personally. And I told them this on the phone, like, I just think that was a flawed design. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, yes, you got the power that you wanted, but it comes at the expense of people will break these eventually. You might
It's guaranteed.
Well, we can't say guaranteed. You might get one that out of the factory didn't crush as much, and you have like a grandma who's barely hitting hard. But if you, in my opinion, if you're a high level player, it's just bound to break. I don't know how you could not.
Yeah. It's
break
like
it.
buying a car from a manufacturer that says, hey, this engine, super powerful, really fast car, but it's gonna break after 10,000 miles.
Yeah, right.
It's like, okay, who's gonna buy that car? No one.
Yeah.
It's set up for failure.
Yeah, the concept to me of it, I feel like was just kind of bad. I feel like it wouldn't be great for the consumer. I feel like it kind of puts a paddle in the market that a lot of people still don't even know what core crushing is. Like, I mean, we hear it at the local courts occasionally, and like the people clearly have no idea that their paddle is broken. So I don't really feel like I like the idea of doing like putting a thicker core just to get some more power. Like, I feel like it is just inherently
Especially
flawed.
if you're already trying to gain power through using a foam system like they're doing.
What's interesting though is I'd like to know how much that foam is actually causing. So everyone up until this news, and this may change people's opinion because it obviously makes sense why it hit so hard if it was essentially core crushed.
Right.
The foam, I'd be curious to know how much weight that's pulling in terms of power, because we've now seen several other foam cores that they hit hard, but not that hard. So one of them, I don't know if you actually got to hit it, but I hit it when Will was here. But that Ace Heart, it has the same type of foam design. I think the foam inside might be a little different, which could contribute. But that thing was kind of just like a Gen 2.
Yeah.
Like it was a fine paddle, but it wasn't like ultra juiced power. So I'd like to know how much that foam is actually doing the work. To me, now that I am aware of what the issue is, it's like, oh, okay, well, of course it hit hard.
Yeah.
It was core crushed.
Right. No, it makes 100% sense. My one thing I'm curious about, now that we've hit the 3S's, if, obviously we don't know if they're not core crushed, but let's just say they're not core crushed. And they're
Talking about the 3S?
The 3S. And they're the exact same design as the Gen 3. Mm-hmm. Yes, they still, like, they're not insane like the Gen 3s, but they're still power paddles.
Yeah, 100%.
So they're still hitting harder than pretty much any Gen 2.
Yeah.
And if it's not core crushed, then obviously the foam is doing something in terms of power. Obviously,
Sure.
like, I didn't get to hit that Ace Heart paddle, but other foam core paddles like the Olympus obviously don't hit anywhere near as hard as that. So it's a toss-up for me right now, I mean, foam core.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's still contributing, but I think before people just thought that was like the whole main thing. And now that that's stripped away, I'm like, okay, maybe it's adding, but it maybe wasn't the sole reason it was so juiced.
Oh, totally. And this makes so much more sense for me because it's so interesting when you hit the Gen 3s side by side with the 3S. If they're the exact same design, the Gen 3s, when you hit them, were so... The sound was muted and more thunky. And now the 3S is much more tingy, which makes so much sense because any core crush paddle, let's take a 1X for example, the sound changes drastically.
Yeah.
Obviously, we all know this once it core crushes and starts to make that more thunky thud sound.
Yep.
And so it just makes way more sense.
No,
now.
I think that makes a lot of sense. It still kind of has that sound a little bit, but it's definitely less than what it used to
It
be.
also makes sense of why they felt squishier because they were core crushed. Like,
what are you talking squishy at the edge, or are you talking, because the centers I never really felt like were squishy, but the edges obviously were where the foam was.
I felt in the center it was much more plush feeling and springy, which is what.
Oh wait, you're not talking about physical compression. You're talking about like when you're hitting the ball.
Yeah,
like
when you're
not
hitting,
putting your hand
when
in.
you're hitting the ball.
Oh, okay,
when you're hitting
yes.
the ball with the paddle,
Yes.
it felt much more loose and springy. Where the 3S's now feel stiffer and tighter.
Yes.
Which just, again, all of this makes more sense if they were essentially already core crushed.
Yeah. So let's talk about the 3S and like how it played.
Yeah.
So we've already talked about it a little bit here, but like, yes, it's still a power paddle, but I don't really know if people will complain about them anymore.
I don't hate it. I'm not like against it at all.
I feel like it's pretty in line with most power paddles now. Mm-hmm. I mean, I would be much more scared of the gearbox than I would the 3S now.
Oh, totally.
Or even like the Ripple last night. Like I was way more scared of that. And when I would hit a Gen 3 side by side, I brought like a Perseus Gen 3 and then had the 3S, and then I did the same with the Scorpius. And like you said a minute ago, the best word you can use with the mods and the Gen 3s is that they just felt like loose. Mm-hmm. And then when you hit a 3S, everything feels like tight or more rigid. Like when I go to hit a speed up or I hit a drive on the Gen 3s, it just feels effortless. Like I barely have to do anything and I just get an absolute cannon out of it.
It feels like you have strings on a tennis racket.
Yeah, it's just
it
boom.
Launches the ball.
And now without that, I'm like, I still have to do a lot of work with my body to get power out of it. Yes, it's still a power paddle, but I didn't feel like I could drive someone off the court. With the Gen 3s, I feel like I could drive someone off the court. Mm-hmm. So yes, still hits hard, but I think you have to put a lot more effort in to get it. And it's like, my thought right now is if you were going to complain about a 3S, then I feel like you have to complain about a Paddle Tech and like
obviously
any other power
gearbox.
paddle. Yeah, a gearbox, like any other power paddle you have to complain about.
I don't mind the Paddle Techs power-wise, and I put the 3S right around there. So I have currently, until we play against other people with 3Ss more, I'm okay with where they stand in the power rankings. Like it's not unbelievably, too much.
Yeah. I think the thing that we're all going to have to wait and see is, so yes, the core is now not intentionally crushed to generate power out of the box, but the thing that I'm really curious about is it's still a Gen 2, and we still know that Gen 2s can core crush.
Yes.
So basically now, instead of it being intentional, it just comes down to how tight is the QC on the actual mode. So my guess is we're going to see significantly less than what we saw before, but how high is that number still going to be?
Eventually, you'll still see them. Like I feel like no matter what, if you're someone who hits hard and plays a lot, any Gen 2 paddle eventually will core crush.
Yeah,
that is inevitable.
That seems to be for higher level players the case, for sure.
Yeah.
So
it's just a matter of time.
I hope it is tightened up and that we don't, because if the 3S exactly how it is right now is in the market, I'm not going to complain.
Yeah.
I don't think most people would probably complain.
Right.
So, yeah.
That just comes down to if you want to use a UPA approved paddle versus USAP.
Well, exactly. Now that there's that whole other debate, like you can't use it in certain tournaments, and it's like, okay, I still think it's a really good paddle, but is it $280 good, and I'm restricted in what tournament?
People have already been throwing around. I've been hearing some other people joke around when people have a 3S in their hands. I was with some friends and someone had one and someone made a joke and was like, "Oh, so you're never playing APPs, huh?" So the jokes are already going around about the UPA approved paddle. I think it's hilarious.
Yeah. So that I think is going to be a big question on like, well, is it worth it now when you do have other power paddles that are pretty solid and it's, currently legal everywhere?
Right.
So I don't know. I guess the other thing I will say overall with the 3S, and it makes sense because core crush paddles are unpredictable, but 3S way more predictable, and it was way, 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 way easier for me to drop with.
Oh, yeah.
I struggled with the 16 Gen 3s before. Like everything just felt so hard to drop with for me. 3S, I felt right at home. I didn't have any issue.
It's so funny because I still feel like it was easier for me to drop with the Gen 3s.
Yeah, but you seem to have a thing where you just don't want to do anything. I'm convinced you just don't like swinging your paddle.
I like my drops. I like to just scoop it, and I like to just barely move my hand and let the ball, like the ripple. Oh, my drops with the ripple, fantastic. But why would you ever drop with the ripple?
I mean, yeah. Why would you ever drop with a Gen 3 back in the day either? You wouldn't.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think I have too much else on the 3S. But yeah, I mean, that's what's different from the 3S, guys. Basically, core is fully intact as it should be.
But otherwise, that's why the design is all the same. When we first cut it open, and we were all like, "What the heck? Why is it the exact same?"
Yeah,
because it literally is.
I do wish it's such a weird thing because I feel like I see both sides of this story, right? So if Joola did all their testing and they saw, okay, this passes when we do this, and it passes up to a certain point of use. It's like, okay, well, you're not breaking a rule, but you're also putting something out that you like know is gonna break more than likely.
But also, if you know that the market is trained to see that as a unusable, broken product, why still intentionally make it that way?
Well, but then couldn't you say that about every Gen 2? Because like we said earlier, you know they're inevitably going to core crush, so maybe every Gen 2 company is just as guilty.
I guess. Yeah, you could look at it that way. That makes sense.
Because, like, I mean, if we looked at basically any thermoform paddle, like, yeah, we hear it happen to people all the time. So I guess it's
just a matter of how much mileage the company wants you to get out of it.
Well, it's, I guess, how much mileage, and I guess maybe it was the intent. Like, you know, I feel like I would think a lot of the companies aren't doing that on purpose. I guess I don't know.
Right.
Just based on how long some of them last, I'm getting the hunch that most of the time it's not intentional. But that is, I feel like that is an interesting thing to think about. It's like, okay, well, yeah, if you are mad at Joola, then why are we not mad at everyone else? Because they don't last forever.
Right.
And heavy hitters complain about breaking them.
It's just less intentional from other companies.
Yeah.
Like,
but then you also don't know their intent either, right? Like maybe there are companies doing this and we just don't know about it.
I guess, yeah, that's true. We don't know because we haven't talked to them. So,
well, it's also sometimes, for example, like, do they even know? Like sometimes, obviously there are companies that are more involved with their factories and they keep closer tabs on them, but there are also a lot of companies that don't really know what their factory is doing. Totally. So could their factory just say, oh, we ran out of 16 millimeter cores. Let's just put this thicker one in here, and they won't know. It's not broken out of the box, like it doesn't crunch. So then they just don't know. Does that happen? Maybe.
I wouldn't be surprised, honestly.
Yeah, I don't know. A lot of questions.
It's such a weird, it's such a weird thing to think about, and yes, interesting. Gen 2 paddles, man. We should just go back to Gen 1 or give everyone a wood paddle, man. Let's just go back to wood paddles.
Look, let's not make pickleball terrible. Come on. Let's not ruin pickleball.
What if we all go back to the Franklin signature?
That OG one?
Yeah.
Fiberglass paint grit one?
Everyone goes back to Franklin signature. That's what you get to use.
Do you think Ben is just the immediate winner of that tournament if they did a pro tournament with only that paddle? Or would it be someone else? Because I feel like anyone like Kwong, I don't think he's going to be able to spin the ball.
Kwong's out.
Anyone who's hitting like semi-Western, you're probably just out.
Yeah, Riley's out. Well, no, Riley, I think because he used that Gamma paddle, he'd be fine.
No spin.
He'd be totally fine with it. I don't know. There would be a lot of players who just would be automatically. Yeah. Connor Garnett.
Yeah.
Out of the tournament.
Yeah.
You give him one of those, I'm sorry, but he's never making a finals again. That would be such an interesting. I honestly would love to see a tournament where every player has to use the same paddle. That would be so interesting. It would be fun. Obviously, it would never be a PPA.
Yeah.
It'd be cool if there was like a privately held tournament.
Just give us like 3 tournaments and just see if the results are different.
Yeah. I mean, so back in my bowling career, that was a thing where every competitor had to use the same ball. Then it was honestly some of the most fun tournaments I've ever competed in.
Sure.
I would love to see that in pickleball. Even just like for a local tournament.
Yeah.
Everyone, like the registration is, a little bit lower and everyone just has to buy this cheap paddle.
I want to see a trainer paddle tournament.
Oh, that would be so much fun. That would be awesome. There's so many cool ideas for these. Like I'd love to, I should set something like that up. That'd be fun. Or even just like a rec group where everyone has to use the same old junky paddle.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's all we have on the Joola 3S. We will keep you updated on if we hear any core crushing or anything else. But, I mean, should just be in line with about everything that's on that back wall right there now. So,
and hopefully this is the fourth and last time we have to talk about this paddle.
Yeah. I feel like I am getting deja vu. I feel like it was like Gen 3, Mod, 3S, and it's like, okay.
Alpha.
Yeah, Alpha.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm
There's literally been 4 versions of this thing. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. All right. Don't actually have much in the kitchen today. Sat around trying to think of some topics. There wasn't a whole lot coming to mind, but one thing I just thought was interesting. I was just watching some gameplay of myself, and this is why I say people should always do this. One thing I noticed specifically that I do on my backhand dinks a lot is I take it back and then I only swing like halfway. Like I usually don't finish the follow through, and I can tell I do it even more. Like I stop sooner the more I'm either panicked or jammed. Like I'm like really trying to not like overhit the ball. And then just watching a lot of pros this weekend, I was like, okay, I need to fix this because everyone, especially Ben, is great at this. It's always the same full swing no matter where he is. I was like, I just need to get in the habit of swinging slower, which was actually kind of like the thing I was talking about with my drops a couple weeks ago. I was like, just swinging slower, but swinging very full and whatnot. And so I need to kind of do
another great person to watch who does that, kind of almost exaggerates it, is JW. On his backhand dink, he like almost over exaggerates his follow through and goes way through it.
Sure.
And that's essentially, for a long time, that's all I did, was like I had to tell myself to almost exaggerate that movement. And now it's just become natural.
Yeah, I really want to mess with it more because I feel like anytime you kind of do like a half swing and you're trying to like baby it or something, I feel like you get less control. But if you can swing full and just go really slow, which means usually your footwork has to be more prepped and whatnot. But
this comes to when it's off the bounce, though. We're not talking about volleys.
Yeah, I'm specifically talking about off the bounce.
On volleys, you don't want to follow through that much.
Yeah, I mean, usually it's just you almost hold your paddle there or you just kind of like poke it a little bit.
Yeah, but on dinks off the bounce, you almost want to exaggerate your follow through. At least that's what I do.
I need to check my forehand dink now and see what I do on that. I probably do a pretty similar thing on that side too, which would probably explain why my forehand dink sucks, especially last night. It was so bad last night.
You were struggling last night a bit. You were having
I don't know what was going on.
rough time. But you didn't have a rough time when you played against me. Well, the first round.
Yeah, I think I was just too tired.
When I played with Caleb, those first 2 games, you played just fine. Then every game after that was just downhill.
Dude, I don't know what happened.
Especially when we got to the game where I beat you and Caleb in about 3 minutes.
Oh my gosh, I don't know what happened, especially because the game before was so good.
Honestly, we should just post that. We should post that game.
That game doesn't need to see the light of day. That does not need to exist
man.
Anywhere on earth. Well, anyways, guys, that's pretty much all I had there, but that's just kind of a reminder. You should film yourself. Because you will be shocked at the things you do on the court, because I promise you, not everything you think you're doing, you are actually doing.
100%.
So film yourself, go just see what things you find odd about your game, and then try and fix it, because it happens to me all the time. I'm like, what the heck was I doing there? And I'm like, do I do that all the time? And then I go look, and I'm like, I do that all the time.
And trust me, you do not look as cool as you think you do.
Yes.
I record myself all the time, and I have a crazy point, and I go, oh, man, I can't wait to watch that back, maybe post that, and then I watch it back, and I go, maybe not.
Yeah, maybe I'm not going to post that.
Maybe that one won't see the internet.
Maybe it wasn't as cool as I thought.
Yep.
So, there you guys go. Thanks for watching. Thanks again for celebrating with us. Just remember, the discount codes are only live until midnight tonight. So if you're going to get a paddle, make sure you do it today. If you're listening to this on Tuesday, sorry, but the discounts are gone now.
Yeah. So just buy one paddle from every company.
That would be crazy. I didn't total anything up, but that would be a lot of fun.
That would be insane.
Yeah. So,
well, anyways.
All right. Catch you guys later.
Peace.